Welcome, everybody. This is the MAC meeting from May 25th, and I'd like to call it to order. JL, do you want to do the flag salute for us?
Yes, let's all stand.
Okay, let me share my screen. 1 second.
All right,
Yes,
pledge allegiance
to the flag.
United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, JL. For item number 3, the agenda, I'd like to make a motion to change the order. And under advisory matters, I'd like to move the draft budget, item 11B, above the landscaping discussion, 11A. And I'd like to move all the advisory matters up above public comments, number 8, because I believe a lot of the public comments are going to be handled in the advisory matters anyway. Do I have a second?
I second it.
Thank you, Alon. Let's do a roll call. Alon?
Here.
No, I mean, oh, I guess I should do the roll call. That's not on here. Oh, call to order. I didn't have a roll call. I think let's just vote on the motion that's on the table, Alon.
I can do the roll call for you.
Okay, do you want to do that, Venice?
Jay Nye,
Yes.
Alon Glickstein,
Yes.
Seema Chandra,
Yes.
JL Diaz,
yes.
Janice Smets.
Here.
We're voting on the motion, Janice?
Yes.
Thank you. I'm sorry, I didn't do a roll call, but everybody's present, Denise, so I think we're okay. Has everybody had a chance to read the meeting minutes? And is there a motion to approve those or any changes?
Can I interrupt for a moment? I want to make sure that what I understood was we just had the roll call. That's what.
No, that was the motion.
Okay, but let's go ahead and have that roll call, because we need to have that.
Denise?
Yes. Jay Nye,
Yes, I'm here.
Alan Glickstein,
Here.
Seema Chandra,
Yes, I'm here.
JL Diaz,
Present.
Janice Smets.
Here.
Thank you.
All right, I'd like to move to item number 4, approval of the meeting minutes from January. Any changes that anybody's interested in talking about, or is there a motion to approve them as written?
I'll make a motion to approve them as written.
Do we have a
Second it.
second?
Yeah, I'll second it.
Denise, can we take a roll call?
Sure thing. Jay Nye,
Yes.
Alon Glickstein,
Yes.
Seema Chandra,
Yes.
JL Diaz,
Yes,
Janice Smets.
Yes.
Thank you.
We're going to move on to item number 5, which is public safety reports. And I just want to give you a heads up, Officer Ayers, that I'm going to call on you second. We're going to start with Senior Deputy Charmonte.
Hello.
Please talk to us about the Sheriff's Department.
Hi, everybody. Not too much to report in the Oak Park area. This last period, it's been pretty quiet, knock on wood. However, our neighboring areas have been being hit with the catalytic converter thefts. They seem to be increasing so much to the point where we actually started a program. The sheriff put out a media release on March 4th. It's called Etch and Catch, Catalytic Converter Anti-Theft Program. And what it is, anybody in the community can go to a handful of auto shops. There's about 10 of them listed in the press release, and they'll put on a sheriff's stamp, and they'll etch your driver's license plate of your car onto the catalytic converter. Hopefully that will deter somebody when they're under your car at 2 in the morning, wanting to cut it off. And then the scrap yards that give these people money for these stolen catalytic converters, hopefully that will deter them too, and they shouldn't be buying them when they have the star. Just an extra little precaution that one can take. Other than that, I really don't have anything to pass on of significance. We still don't have the VIPs back yet. Not sure when they're coming back. Hopefully sooner than later. I ran into one of them in Oak Park, and he said he's coming back soon, whatever that meant. So I don't know. That's it. If anybody has any questions.
Just what kind of cars are popular with the catalytic converters?
I've heard all different kinds of cars. Priuses, I think, are a popular one. But I don't think any car is exempt if it's in an area that is easily obtainable without being seen or caught. They'll do it. They're doing, like we had one night a couple weeks ago, there was like 8 different vehicles in one evening, one night. Not in Oak Park. Again, we're not having this problem so much in Oak Park as we are in Newberry Park and Thousand Oaks, but it's just food for thought. And we have a couple residential burglaries in Moore Park. Again, not Oak Park, but anytime we have the residential burglaries, and we believe it's Chilean crews, there's always the risk that they come to Oak Park North Ranch. So just be vigilant and know your surroundings and report any suspicious activity.
Relative to history, though, does the residential burglary slow down because everybody's home now, so the burglars are afraid to try?
That's what I'm assuming. Everybody's been home. So it's definitely died down. It's given our detectives a lot of opportunity to follow up on cases and make some headway. But yeah, for the most part, again, knock on wood, we haven't had that major problem of residential burglaries in this area, really.
Nice. Very good. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Anybody else have any questions?
Thank you. We'll move on to CHP Officer Ayers.
Have a good night.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Huh?
All right. Hi, Oak Park. Can you hear me? Okay.
Yes, we can see you and hear
Perfect,
you.
okay.
Thank you.
Good. Again, I'm Officer Ayers. Lieutenant Commander Key sends his regards. He does usually like to attend these meetings. He is at a family function though, so he asked me to come here in his place. Again, I am out here at the softball field, so I apologize if you hear the background noise. My daughter's at a softball tournament this year, today over in Thousand Oaks. So, my name is Officer Ryan Ayers. I am the Public Information Officer at the Moore Park CHP office. Again, just kind of piggyback off of what Senior Deputy Chair Monte was saying. We're in the same boat as far as everything seems to be going pretty well. Again, we'll knock on wood for that. We are also kind of trying to pioneer avenues for residents and businesses who have like fleets of vehicles and things to get as far as the catalytic converters are involved with that, so that they can get those things tagged and that the people have an avenue to do that easily. So if you can always go to the sheriff. The CHP is on board with that as well, and we have been seeing some success with partnering with the sheriff, and we have some vehicle theft task forces that are out and about trying to curtail this, and they've been successful in catching numerous violators on this. So like I said, to go on what he was saying, it is kind of a big deal right now. As far as property crimes, we haven't seen anything major, no major upticks in that. Even in Oak Park specifically, the crash picture that we've been seeing has dropped dramatically. There haven't been, we haven't had any crashes in Oak Park since our last meeting, so that's great. Whereas just for comparison, other surrounding areas, like Moore Park, Hyrule especially, that we service, has seen kind of an uptick in solo vehicle crashes into the parked cars or trees or things like that. So good job for you guys for keeping that to a minimum. Nothing in the last since the last meeting, so that's great. On top of that, we are opening up our classes again, as far as I'm one of the instructors for our Start Smart class, which targets new drivers age 15 to 19. There's different ways you can join these courses. We advertise them online on all of our social media, but it's a great class to kind of give information to new drivers within that age group, to give them some experience, some ideas and tips on being a new driver from drivers that have been doing this for a while, and from a law enforcement standpoint as well. But we make it a pretty non-obtrusive class, and it's very laid back, so it's a pretty good atmosphere for that. We're also starting to get back into our Age Well, Drive Smart, drive longer programs for the senior drivers, the older drivers, give them tips and ways to stay on the road longer, and maybe some tips on when to recognize when enough is enough for themselves, so that it's not put on the family, because that's kind of a hard thing for the family to do, but a necessary thing we find. So we give them some tips on that. We're still having a kind of a hard time getting into the schools, just because they're until June 15th, which is after school gets out. We can't do full classroom exposures, and we found that the online avenue for what we do and what the message we want to try to get across. There's easy ways to, you just do this, and you can no longer see what's going on, and you're not getting the picture. They're watching their games or whatever. So we like to do the in-person stuff. So hopefully over the summer and next year, starting next year, school year, we'll be back into the classrooms, getting that message across. So like I said, other than that, we don't really have anything else to report on, which is good news for you guys. So maybe you have anything for me?
I have a quick question for you. This is Alon Glickstein. Have you, there was some oversized vehicle that was communicated with Lieutenant Jeremy Key back in April. Do you know anything about that? Did you hear anything about an oversized vehicle on, where was it? God, I forgot the street. It was a big truck on Rockfield. Have you heard anything? Like a dump truck?
Is it something that's being parked there long term?
Yeah, it was parking there for a couple of weeks at a time.
Okay. I remember something being said about that. I was not the officer that went out there specifically for that incident, but I need to, that being said, anytime we get a complaint like that, we're going to go out there and investigate it. We
Okay.
have certain protocol and laws and regulations that we have to follow before we can get rid of certain vehicles, but we'll definitely go out there, and if we can talk to an owner or a registered owner of a vehicle, we're going to. And if we can't, we'll start the process. We'll go through the process to remove that vehicle. Have you seen that vehicle lately, or is it?
No, I have not seen it. And when I went out there, I didn't see it, but somebody, a resident just sent a few emails. So the truck disappeared and showed up again, and he sent another email. So it hasn't popped up in May, so we'll see what happens. But I just thought maybe you would know. We also have another problem with a guy on Canaan.
Alon, so just to interrupt you for a second, on that note, if you would pass on to that resident, if they see something, they'll absolutely tell us, because we'll send an officer out that day and we'll take care of it. Like I said, there's a process, so it may not leave that day, but we'll definitely have an officer go check it out. We don't like leave those hanging out, especially on a complaint like that. So sorry, you were saying about Canaan.
Sounds good. And also, yeah, we have one resident on Canaan that keeps leaving a trailer out parked in front of their house without a vehicle attached to it, and they leave it all day, sometimes overnight, couple days. We've complained a couple of times about this person, but I feel like every time there's a complaint, by the time the officer gets there, it's a day later or something, and then the guy, it's gone, so.
Sure. So is it in front of the residence itself, or is
it's in front of the residence on Canaan.
Now, is that one of the side streets on Canaan where you have the frontage road?
Yeah.
That's okay. So a little background on that, as far as that's concerned. The law does allow recreational uses, for RVs, boats, things like that, to come back to the residence, and it's considered a reasonable amount of time to either load or unload that vehicle, and then do any maintenance or wash it in that period of time as well. And as we all know, we've come home from vacations. You need almost a vacation from the vacation. Washing it isn't on first thing on your priority. So again, if you see it, let us know. We'll go out there and check it out. But realize there is that time frame where they are allowed to have it there, and it's very vague, but it's a reasonable amount of time to unload and wash a vehicle of that nature, an RV or a boat or something like that. So, but please let us know about it. We'll send someone out there.
Okay, if we see it again, or if I get another complaint, I'll email Jeremy again, and then we'll deal with that.
Absolutely. And if you want, you can even ask. You can go through Lieutenant Key, or you can get my information. I can give that to you as well, and I can be a resource for you as well.
Yeah, I can CC you. What's your email?
It is R, and like my last name, AYERS @chp.ca.gov.
Got it.
And I'm also available at the office at 805-553-0800. That's our regular general line, but as long as the office is manned, Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, they'll be able to get a hold of me.
Okay, sounds good. I'll thank you. I'll keep those numbers. The next time it happens, I'll let you guys know.
Any other questions
Thank you.
for Officer Ayers on the CHP? Thank you, Officer Ayers. Appreciate your time.
All right. Thank you very much. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We're going to move on to item number 6, which is Supervisor Parks.
Hello, good evening. It's been a while.
Hello, good evening.
Hi, Alon and all. I wanted to first let you know some things going on in Oak Park. I was fortunate enough to attend the Oak Park Unified School District retirement ceremony, particularly so I could go and give our appreciation to Tony Knight. What a big difference he has made in the community, and from a school district that has been one of probably the best, hands down, in Ventura County, to also nationally receiving environmental awards from the EPA. But I really appreciate his collaboration on everything from the Canaan Shuttle to the Unity and Community event that we had, something we could probably use again. He's really been a huge partner with the county, and it's been a benefit, I think, to the entire community. So I was glad to be able to attend that and provide him with a resolution from our Board of Supervisors. I also, I know we've got some changes going on. We have a new recreation director with the RSRPD, so welcoming Recreation Director Zach Miller, and also best wishes and a thank you for Lisa Weegley, who retires from the Community Center next month. And then we also have some big news for you in our own little world, and that is Jan Osterhaven is going to be retiring from my office, and this is actually going to be her last meeting. So I know I know she has been such a major player in everything Oak Park, and I know that Denise will be taking her spot and has some big shoes to fill there, because Jan has been, I estimate, involved in administering 150 Oak Park MAC meetings.
Wow.
With MAC members on issues from our first act of actually coordinating an oak tree planting and bench for a MAC member, Varinger, and from there working on issues from the Shabbat permitting to the E-Roof. If you remember Parks Community Emergency Response trailer that we got, the CERT trailer, and public safety town halls, and helping me with response to your community and in disasters from fires to this pandemic, keeping the community informed through signboard messages and the Oak Park page on my county webpage, from community surveys to administering the oversized vehicle permits, assisting with budgeting on volunteers and policing and the Canaan Shuttle and crossing guards. She was a big advocate for libraries and Oak Park Library in particular. She's been working to bring relevant and accurate information to the MAC for your good decision-making, including reaching out to the RSRPD and the Oak Park Unified School District, Triumpho, CHP, our Sheriff's Department, working closely with the County Public Works Agency on sidewalks, helping to bring low-cost repair auctions, right? We didn't used to have those to the community. She has also worked and carried the community's values for healthy and verdant and drought-tolerant landscaping, and landscaping being one of the most important things to the community out there. And I know that her close work with the real estate at the Public Works Agency and working on all of the types of issues regarding landscaping. She has really had her commitment to ensure that we move towards a more environmental friendly landscaping, both in drought tolerant and also reducing the use of chemicals. And she's devoted many a night to the Municipal Advisory Council meetings, at least 150, and is always one of the first to come to your meetings, along with her Mac box full of all those comment cards and pencils, exhibits, brochures, and most importantly, her extensive minutes and relevant agendas, and has really established an archive for future Macs moving forward, including helping to establish the protocols. And we have a lot to be grateful for Jan's hard work, including her very swift follow-up on Mac issues. And like I said, big shoes for Venice to fill in with. Venice has doing other municipal advisory councils, all the rest of them in my district. So she will now be a superstar doing every single MAC in my district, which is 4 of them and more than any supervisor has combined. So she's pretty familiar with things, but I know that we will I'll be assisting her as she assists us in that transition. So I just want to take this opportunity to highlight the wonderful work that Jan has done for us and give her my appreciation. And that's just one of the things she does is Oak Park, but she has also helped me in many other areas of the community. So I know that she will be missed, and we were very fortunate to have her good work. And I'm also open for questions.
I have a question, Supervisor. Is Ventura County going to be moving to the yellow tier, do you know, anytime soon?
Yes, Ventura County is moving to yellow, and we will be, let's see if I got the date on that. Was it June 3rd, I believe? We'll be moving into yellow, which will open up more, particularly businesses for indoors like bars and yoga studios and fitness centers. And so that's it's really good for businesses. And then I know we're all looking to June 15th when the whole state will be opening up even further, and the mask mandate and all, I think, will be going. So I think that says a lot for our county. Not all counties have been able to get to that yellow tier. So I'm very delighted, and I'm really happy for our businesses in particular.
Thanks.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Supervisor Parks, does that mean we're going to be meeting face to face soon?
I think what we're going to end up doing is after June 15th, we can start looking at that. And I think with our Board of Supervisors, because it's bringing the public into a room and all of that, that we're going to probably be bringing the public in, and probably I'm thinking after our summer break, because we take off for the most part in August. So like the schools and everything else, be starting up in September.
Yes, it'll be nice to meet in person again.
It will be, won't it? Just the few meetings I've had already, and limited in scope, 10 or less, but it's been wonderful to see people.
Any other questions for Supervisor Parks?
Yes,
Go ahead,
Linda,
Jenna.
hi. Quick question. So will the Board of Supervisors be making rules for other boards and whether they can meet in public or not? Like
Oh,
trying
I think, I think it will establish our countywide, bringing everyone back again at the same time. So that will be coming. I think with our Board of Supervisors, we'll probably do some in-person meetings, which is what we were in. We had the public couldn't come in yet, and we were having still some in person. And then just for safety precautions, have decided to go all Zoom. I have to say though, I think the option of Zoom is a really good one. we may just continue to keep that option available as well as having in public
Having
meetings
a hybrid model, yeah,
where we
good
can.
option, yeah. Any other questions for Supervisor Parks? Jan, we're gonna miss you a lot.
Yeah.
Sorry to see you go, and welcome Denise to the MAC.
Thank you.
Jan, did you want to say anything?
Thank you, everyone, for the opportunity to help serve the community. It was very interesting. And I know we made a lot of lasting contributions, especially for school safety. In the early years, Public Works was really, really active in changing things around traffic and so on. So good luck to everyone. Keep in touch.
We'll see you around.
Yeah,
Yeah,
bye-bye.
we'll miss you.
Yes, keep in touch, Jen.
Yes, Jen, thank you for everything, Jen. We love you. You've been there since I've been there, and I don't know what we'd do without you. You have the answer to everything all the time. So I don't know what we're gonna do without you, but we'll see. Denise, you're gonna have to step it up, I'm sure.
All right. Anything else, Supervisor Parks, before we move on?
I think that's pretty much it. Thank you.
Thank you. So we're on item number 7, which is information items. Vanessa, I'm just going to note that those are listed, the public meeting agendas and links to RSRPD and Oak Park Unified School District. Vanessa, is there anything else that I need to do there?
I can share the screen so that people can see it, that they're noted on the agenda.
Agenda. Thank you. I'm going to move on to item number 11 that we moved up, the advisory matters. And we're going to start with the budget discussion. Chuck, are you going to kick us off, or is it Deborah?
Okay, let me get my video started here.
Thank you.
Yes.
Did you have, I know, I wasn't sure if you or Valerie you have the ability to share your screen if you had anything you wanted to show.
Yes, and Deborah Cavalato may choose to do that during the budget presentation.
Okay.
So
We're starting with the budget, right, Chuck?
Yes, we are.
Okay. Okay, great.
So good evening, everybody. My name is Chuck Alvarez. I'm real estate manager for the Public Works Agency. The item before you is the proposed fiscal year 2022 budget for County Service Area Number 4 in Oak Park. The presentation of the budget will be made by Deborah Cavalato, who's Fiscal Services Manager for the Public Works Agency. After the presentation of the budget, Deborah will be available to answer any questions that you may have regarding the budget, and I'll be available to answer any questions regarding programs funded by the budget. I'll now turn over the presentation to Deborah Cavalato.
Good evening, everyone. So as you see before you, I hope you have a copy. If not, I can share a screen. Just let me know.
Please share a screen.
Yeah.
Share a screen. Okay, let me do that for you really quick.
I'm sorry, but the email I got shows the budget for 2021. The PDF that was attached.
As you'll see there, it's that's the budget estimated, but as you'll see here, it's FY
Page 2.
budget
Yeah.
you have adopted for this year. The actual for as of April, the estimated year in for FY21, which is what we'll be ending in June, and then this is the budget that we're requesting for fiscal year 21-22.
Did I get that email to me really quickly? Because the email from Jan on the 21st of May shows the 2021 budget.
Correct. We don't have this one.
Gosh, I hope I sent you the right one. Oh my goodness. Let me open up my email. If you hold on for one moment, please. And I may stop my video for a second.
Page 2 shows the fiscal projection out through 25, but page 1 only goes to 21.
Goodness, so that might be my error. Let me log in here. So if I have my, oh, I can't see. All right, where's my new tab? There we go. One moment. you prepare all week for this, and then what happens? It's let me see here. I'll get that one to you. Let's see, Jan. So let's do this. I'll do a new message, and I'll attach this computer. And that should be, but make sure I have the right information here for you before.
That looks right.
Okay, perfect. So I will be mailing that to you. Whoops. Let's see, let's close. It's like so many of the little, there we go. I have to move your, there we go. Close. And should I send it to Jan?
Yes.
Okay, there you are, Jan. And here we go. Okay. So let me get back to the screen.
Deborah, could you please send it to Venice?
Oh.
Oh.
Because
I'm like, oh, okay. Oh.
Because that's what we had during the meeting.
Okay, let me make sure I got that back to attach that I need. There you are.
Denise Terry.
And it's VE.
VAN. VA. Well, Terry's my last name, so I'm in the, yeah, if you look TERRY.
Okay.
Is this something that you already emailed out?
I believe I emailed it out, but apparently it may have been I guess the incorrect one.
It was the 21 budget instead of the 22.
Yeah.
Okay,
So let's see if I can find Terry. And I am not having the best luck on this.
Okay.
So
well, if you can't, send it to Jan and she can just forward it to me.
Okay, I do.
You can't find me.
Okay.
Would we like to pause this agenda item and move on to some other agenda items and get those knocked off while we are able to get you the information you need in the meantime?
I think as long as you display it, I think we should be okay, Alon. What do you think?
Right.
I mean, that's fine. If that's the way you guys want, that's fine.
Yeah, I think as long as you display it,
Maybe we'll
that would be great.
We can get a copy as she emails it to us later on.
Yeah.
Okay, do you see the report?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Yes.
So as you can see, we are doing very, very well in our estimated year end for FY21 compared to budget. I'd like to go through just a little bit of the elements here. As you see that we're going to be pretty close in our landscaping, in our landscape repair. We do have some repairs that have been done. Of course, we're doing a street sweeping and your little minor equipment repairs. And as you look here, we are, this is what we're projecting for the year for the water. I know it's been dry, so we had estimate that it'd probably be around this amount of money. And then also too, with the street lighting right now, we're behind on some of the bills that we received. So we're doing the estimate of this is what we're seeing. Of course, it's hard for us, as you'll see in the budget, because this is the first year that we have the LED. We're just starting to see what savings there are. So we want to ensure for the FY22 budget that we did have a little cushion, but we're hoping to see some good effects from the switch out. As you can see here, we did not have any, did not have LAFCO approval yet for the Oak Park.
So I have a question on the lighting. So the last year is 113, right? And now with the LED, you're projecting that it will be more expensive at 129. Is that right?
As of right now, that's from when the bills are trending. But what we do is we have to take, in order to do the estimate, we have to use what prior bills are, plus make a little. But again, of course, at the year end, we can, when we all said and done, we can send you how the fund has done. We can
Okay.
also do that as well, so you can see the final
All
number.
right. Because I'm expecting it to trend down because of the LED. So
I
all right.
agree. Are you expecting it to trend down, Deborah?
We're hoping, again, I'm starting to see it, but again, we had a bill that looked rather low, so we are having that investigated beforehand. So we didn't have a clean bill. I know if there's any other questions, we can talk, Chuck will let me know if there's more detail.
Yeah, Deborah, just to jump in real quick. We only had about 6 months worth of lower bills. So we don't have a full year's worth in order to use to estimate. So we're estimating high, but we do expect that we will see lower bills eventually.
And then as you go through for the community support services, we're projecting by the year end for the school crossing guards to be around $53,000. Of course, we know what had occurred due to COVID. We were fortunate that we got a one-time reprieve. So in the Cadence shuttle, therefore will not be any expenditures.
Wait.
Okay, hold on with the crossing guard, please.
Yeah, I have a question about crossing guard. Why are you projecting 175?
No,
Yes.
this is the budget for FY22. This is what, I'm just going over the year end for you.
No, I know, but why is it higher for next year?
As you can see, this
Full year?
budget, this is the projection from, we're assuming full year opening up just as normal, unless there's something occurred that we aren't aware of.
But is there a raise? Because I mean, why is it not 167? That's what I'm asking.
There is Chuck, if you want to go with that.
Is there an increase?
Yes, we do have.
Yes, I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Chuck.
There is an increase scheduled. They have a long-term contract with the crossing guard company, the school district does. And so we are able to know in advance what the cost is going to be. So that is a projected cost.
Oh, it's like normal inflationary or cost?
Oh, no, they were underpaid for quite a number of years. So we've been doing catch up each year.
Oh, I see. Okay.
But we're not increasing the number.
No, there's no change in the number of crossing guards, just the cost.
Okay.
And this 53,653, this is the
year end FY21. This is what we're projecting, as of course, you know, with COVID, there wasn't utilized as full potential if we had a full year.
So in other words, we saw savings because of COVID and the schools being closed.
right. So how much is the savings? How much did not spend?
Roughly about $110,000.
Oh, we save 110. Okay, good.
So here we go. And then as you can see, we got that one-time savings with the Canaan shuttle. So that was something that was provided to us. We're very fortunate. And as you can see, we have the of course, we have the elections, and then a couple items of the volunteer and policing program. And then, of course, there's the main costs that we have associated with administrative support, which includes real estate services, as well as ourselves.
And so the VIP is going down?
The VIP in this estimated year, we received one bill that wasn't accrued in the prior year, so therefore it's higher. But in the budget, you'll be seeing it at this rate. So this is an additional bill that wasn't accrued in FY20.
Oh.
For the cost, correct.
All right, but then the budgeting is going down from 30 to 26. So.
That is the estimate that we received direction.
Oh, okay.
And then, so as you can see here, there's the remaining costs associated with fiscal services agency, as well as real estate and other costs we do for purchasing, for contracts or materials, and estimate for attorney fees, if there's any. Usually it's most likely when we do our board letters for our special assessment that we receive a charge from them. And this is the collection and billing fees associated, if you don't know before, for we collect all the property tax and a special assessment through the auditor controller tax collection. So for FY22, as you can see, we did a little increase. I raised roughly about 3 points.
$2 grand.
And then this is the information here that Chuck, if you would like to step in and talking about the different expenses or different things that may have changed. I know, for example, landscaping, we're flat here. But of course, in the repairs, emergency work, we always have a cushion here, as in the case when the Woolsey fire occurred. We did have money to cover the costs associated with this item, as well as if this year, I understand there's crossable trees, sidewalk, that nature. If there's costs associated with that, we do have money. And then of course, there's the street sweeping and any minor equipment repairs that we have. The water, we're of course a little flat, but of course, you know that we haven't heard official drought, but there could be certain costs associated that could increase. And as you of course know, the lighting, again, we didn't know, we went up a little high. It does not mean that that could occur. I'm hoping to get the remaining, when I have the year in, to see a better number. And then when we do our projections that we present to the County of Ventura, we'll have more of a solid number to them in the coming fiscal year. And of course here, this is the Green Park Street, the urban retrofit. Chuck, would you like to talk about this now, or would you want to do this after I just kind of go through the budget?
We can do it now. Jeff Pratt, the Director of Public Works, has directed us to go to the LAFCO, Local Agency Formation Commission, for a request to activate the latent power, providing these Green Street type services, which are basically water quality, treating of runoff water, that type of thing. So we will be going to LAFCO sometime after the first of the fiscal year. And assuming that LAFCO approves those latent powers, we will then contract to provide about 50% of the annual cost for maintaining those Green Street facilities. So the estimate there of $40,700 includes both the 50% share for the coming fiscal year, as well as the cost of going to LAFCO to ask that that latent power be activated. So that's all I really have to say on that item. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
So as again, and here's the budget for the crossing guards. We went back to being fully open. Canaan Shuttle, this is an estimate associated with our portion. I did not get the final number of whether we'll have, again, the sharing between the city of Agoura. I saw that they have possible for their budget in FY22, they're preliminary. But the remaining, we do I believe Oak Park School District, if that is occurring. Probably something maybe more Supervisor Parks, I know, works very hard on that element. And then of course we just have any of the associated costs with any of the certification, the emergency, and then here's the volunteer in policing program again. And then our various costs again for administrative support. So is there any questions?
Yes, I have a question, Deborah. This is Janice.
Yes.
Okay, so back to the crossing guards. I just did some of my own calculation here, and I'm coming up with 13 crossing guards based on your expected increase to 175,350. This means that each one is getting close to 12,000 a year. So then when I divided that by 12, that's coming up to close to $994 per month. And even if I use 30 hours a week, I'm coming up with $33 an hour, which sounds kind of high unless I'm doing something wrong. Could we verify that number, please?
Okay.
Also, a question on the property tax revenue. It's my understanding it's increased by 3.5%. Is that correct?
Yes.
So that's reflective in the budget?
Yes.
Now, when you take that 3.5%, I'm just curious because I just went through this with Rancho. When you come up with what our portion is, are you able to separate our property taxes from the total property taxes in Ventura?
The property tax that you calculate here are from your location.
It is from our location. Okay.
And the special assessment as well. So that 91,600 will hit your bill as well.
So we're totally separate from Ventura County tax revenue. You're not taking a percentage from that total to apply to us.
Yes, this is what I can do is get you the information, send it to you to show how it is distributed.
Yeah, I'm curious because what I discovered with Rancho is that they were actually included all their commercial property taxes in when they were just coming up with a percentage for us out of all their commercial property tax revenue. So I'm kind of curious if we're making sure we're doing apples and apples.
Okay.
Okay.
I can give you what I have. We get the reports every couple of months, so what we turn in and they can give me the estimate. And also we get a paperwork usually the start of the year, how we're going to be projecting for the full year. So I will do that and get that information to you.
I'd appreciate that. Thank you.
Oh, no problem.
So this is JL. The fund balance carryover, the 304,800. Does it include there the savings in the crossing guard, the 100,000 something?
So what happens if you look at the FY21 estimate here, if the costs going to plan, you're going to have a carryover 42,000 that will go to your fund balance. However, if we do exactly what we said in this budget, you'll have to use roughly 304,000 in FY22's a fund balance for FY22 to cover your costs.
Okay. Okay. So the 42,000 is the saving from last year. That's what you're saying.
Yes, for this, if we project the year, you'll see here, we have our fund balance. This is how much we're projecting to receive. And here is the cost associated that we're seeing your fund balance that we see at the end of the year. So we'll be carrying 42,000 over.
So, okay. So we're just carrying over 42. I thought we save around 100,000.
If you look at, when you do the calculation here, of course, we have different costs associated. We did have savings here, but as you can see, there's a little bit higher costs in the lighting. Also,
okay.
Yeah, and in the, where was it here? Let me get to here. Into the 32 and 94. That's where it was saving for the budget. So as you can see, when you compare the budget in FY21, I was supposed to use up 300,000 fund balance if all these costs hold true. Because I had savings of it, I actually not only didn't use up.
So you did not use 306.
Correct.
Instead, you will. We went above that and save even 42 grand.
Yes, because as you see, your revenue for budget was going to be 936,000, but we thought our funding, all our expenses would be 1.2, but realized it hasn't been. That's not what we're seeing. We're projecting that we're going to only use 874,000. Therefore, you'll have 42,000 in savings.
All right, thank you.
Yes.
So every year we're doing deficit spending then because our revenue is only 938,000, right?
Mm-hmm.
And our budget is, we're doing 1.243. So we're digging into our reserves every year.
That's what for budget, yes. Now, if there be times that you may not, for example, the landscaping, we may not have much landscaping emergency repairs. So therefore, we have a savings there. Water though, because water is always that one now, especially with droughts that could change. That's the one that can be high or low. So we always in our budgets try to be conservative in the sense that this is the highest case scenario. Here's if we want all this, if these, like we get 6% increase in water, what could happen if we do, crossing guards, if we add, let's say, for example, the Oak Park. You can see over the years these costs that it will eat into your fund balance.
Okay.
But of course, I would say, Chuck, is we look at this every month and just ensure that we are sticking to the budget and try to be, keep the savings where we can. But of course, some things we can't control.
How much is our reserve now?
As you look down the bottom, if we go according to our projection, we have roughly 1.9 million.
Oh, wow.
That's-
Okay. And it's depleting 300,000 a year.
Mhm.
If your budget goes according to plan, so we look at the budget and say, we are going to plan on doing these items, and over the years, we don't know inflation, especially now with inflation.
I know.
Always want to ensure that here's where you're going to be going in the 5 years. We've been fortunate that when we do these projections, we do not get hit in that area. But of course, there's always can be an issue. Woolsey fire came through and that had damage. However, we were fortunate that FEMA covered the majority of the cost, and we received some money from the lawsuit. Therefore, that cost basically covered, I believe, and if I'm wrong, Chuck, let me know, the entire cost of the damage, or maybe a slight cost to the fund.
So effectively, this is only for 5 years now. This money here is that will last only for 5 years.
Yes, if we go into page 2, we always, again, we're looking at the estimate. We have property tax, we assume with 3.5, there's a 3% tax, 3% increase. Of course, if you were remembering the last recession, we had a great number of property taxes going up and then slowly was dropping dramatically. We since have built it back up and made our dollars back. And as you see, if you're looking at different kind of landscaping, costs associated with the repairs, we kept street sweeping as is, costs associated increasing with water, because again, water is that commodity that you hear about to be increasing. The lights, of course, now with the lights, what we did is because it's 129, we just left it flat. I'm hoping again to have a clearer picture for next year so that when you see this, that we will see that savings. As Chuck mentioned, you can talk more about this after, about the green park. Of course, if that comes into play, then we have the increase of the cost share. And then of course, the different contracts increase over the years, as well as now, of course, the Canaan shuttle. That is, this year, we're assuming that we did have the cover for, I think the city of Gora and the school district. But let's say, for example, they decide not, and we want to keep it going, we would then have to take over the fare. Therefore, to cover the cost for it to be continuing. So we always put that in there. Fortunately, Supervisor Parks is able to get the funding that we need. Therefore, we've not seen that yet. So that projection can go down. If that is the case next so many years, it can go down as well. Of course, we have the volunteer and police program, and then the other costs associated with the administrative support and expenses. And then I have the projection of your fund balance going. If, of course, we're only going up 3%, but you have water up 6% with our analysis. And then I have the footnotes and assumptions there that we can discuss. That discuss what we did, how we came up with the number, what we were using. For example, I gave also to show how our water usage was in the coming years. Well, of course, you saw a decrease in FY19 and 20 because of the Woolsey fire and the damage that we had for the landscaping and the water and the different types of agreement. So this all gives you all the information as to what we were doing.
So Deborah, are you asking for approval of this budget proposal?
From what we usually do, and if I'm correct me if I'm wrong, Chuck, we come and present, and then the MAC does come in and does a vote as to approving of this budget. And if I'm misspeaking in any other piece, please let me know. Chuck, or I know Supervisor Parks works on this a lot as well.
Yeah, it would be a recommendation to approve.
Thank
the
you. Thank you.
actually approve, right.
Recommend approving this budget. Yes.
I have a quick question, if you don't mind, Deborah.
Oh, no problem. Please do.
So just thinking about what JL said about, 5 years down the road, we're running out. What if we wanted to start cutting our expenses? What are the 1 or 2 or 3 things you recommend that we could do? How do we pick and choose or decide how to, minimize expenses?
Well, a lot of it will have to do with what do you want to serve your community. Of course, water is the big one. I mean, you do have beautiful landscapes, so that's something that, again, the drought-resistant plants, the different types of, I know the plant has worked. We did the electricity was great, but again, it all depends upon what the county's looking. The shuttle, is that something that continues on? Now, if we get the cost, I mean, it's 30,000 a year, but that's something that if you go to, let's go to that one there, you have that item there, but it serves the community. So lights, we can't do really anything about. Irrigation, we can, again, with planting and that nature. Again, here, if we don't have to do major repairs, this can drop dramatically. As you see, we had $82,000, but now when the fire happened in Woolsey, it was very high. excuse me, to almost to what we had for budget. So this here, again, it depends upon what happens. This may not occur. We don't have, but trees get old, maybe landscape, you have to look at hills and that nature of sliding. And that's I'm not more, and that'd be more on the project side I can speak with, Chuck can speak with. So that's where we see items again, but.
So I have a question on that. So if there's any road grading or tree cutting, this is where you get the money?
Yes, so this will be in this item here. And if I'm, again, correct me if I'm wrong, Chuck?
The roads are not part of the budget.
Oh, yes, sorry. Yes, we were talking about here the trees that we do.
Cutting the trees, this is where you get the money?
So this is the regular contract maintenance. This is where you have trees. Again, when the Woolsey fire occurred, this is where I pulled the money from to do any repairs that we had to do until the FEMA money came through.
Yeah, just for clarification, the landscape maintenance contract is just for the routine maintenance that happens in the community on a continuous basis. Anything over and above that, say the removal of trees, or replacement of irrigation systems, meters that go bad, all those items are additional expenses not covered by that contract. So they would come out of the landscape repair remediation emergency work fund.
Okay, got it. Okay, so Alon asked about savings expense. If we are going to increase the revenue, or I would say get some ideas on how to increase the revenue, how do we do this? And if ever we need to have a special assessment, is within that 5 years, how do we do it?
You could put it to a vote of the people of Oak Park, whether or not they'd like to increase the assessment or not.
Okay.
But that would be something that's also costly to do. It's costly to run an election.
All right.
So that's something, if you were considering doing, you'd probably want several years lead time.
Like what, how many years? Like 2 years?
At least 2 years, because you're going to have to
Okay.
build public support for it as well.
That is correct. And that's why I'm thinking about probably we should start discussing that as a alternative, because we're gonna run out of money with the way
Well,
we're spending this.
Maybe the MAC would like this to come back as a discussion item at a future MAC meeting.
Okay. And 2 years is minimum, right? But
I
is
haven't
that-
done
is that
one.
safe?
I haven't done one, so I can't say with any certainty how long is acceptable, but it seems like 2 years would be the minimum amount.
I
Are
probably
there
should do.
any other questions for Chuck or Deborah?
Not questions, but I'm not prepared to approve this budget until I get my answers. The 2 questions that I put out there, I like those answers first before I vote on this.
When do we need to vote on this? What's the deadline? Can we have another month on this to decide?
The budget gets presented on June 21st.
Okay, so we
So
don't
we
have any
probably
time.
would not have another board meeting, right?
Okay, let's,
I think
Let's
we should
put it-
just continue with this one as it is, but now that you guys are seeing the bigger picture and we're talking about it, maybe we could attack each individual issue or line item on this, on this report in every MAC meeting going forward. So we don't, because we could discuss something for a whole hour or more.
sure.
So that
So
should
let's
be
put
our
it in.
plan.
Let's put it into vote. Let's see if 5 of us agree to vote on this or not.
Do we have a motion, please?
I'll make a motion to pass this, to recommend this budget.
And I'll second it.
Denise,
All right.
can you go back out of sharing mode so we can see everybody? Deborah?
That would be Deborah.
Out of sharing mode. Come on, share. Let's see. Pause sharing, stop sharing. There we go.
Thank you.
It's at the top. Yeah, there you
Denise, can you do a roll call on that
go. Yes.
motion?
Jay Nye,
Yes.
Alon Glickstein,
Aye.
Seema Chandra,
Yes.
JL Diaz,
Yes.
Janice Smets. Oh, you're muted, Janice. Unmute.
Sorry, no.
Okay. So 4-1.
Thank you, Denise.
You're welcome.
Chuck, is there anything else you want to say before we move on to item 11A, which is the landscaping? Do you want to say anything else about the budget?
No, I have nothing else to say unless there's some questions.
Well,
One last for Chuck, sorry, Janice. Can you start researching on how we can do the assessment?
Yes, I can find the applicable code section and forward it to the supervisor's office for distribution to the MAC members.
Thank you.
And Chuck, can I still get response to my 2 questions from Deborah?
Oh, of course.
Oh, yes, definitely.
All right, we're going to move on to item 11A, which is the landscaping proposal from Chuck. Is that you again?
That's me again. Thank you
Great.
very much. The item before the MAC is the proposed repair of tree damaged sidewalks. These are along Hawthorne Drive at Rockfield Street and at Morento Way. Both the County Roads and Transportation Department and Enhanced Landscape provided estimates for the work. Only Roads and Transportations provided estimates for all 4 sites. Roads and Transportation has estimated the cost of the work to be $14,350. Roads and Transportation had an arborist inspect the trees whose roots are damaging the sidewalks. And the arborist determined that some of the trees must be felled. We have a PowerPoint presentation that will show the damaged sidewalks as well as the trees causing the damage. Now, I know you've all seen some of the emails that have been circulating over the last couple of weeks. There have been various assertions from members of the public that the trees slated for felling are protected by the county's tree protection ordinance or are protected heritage trees. PWO staff in consultation with the county planning department have determined that the trees proposed for removal are not protected by the county ordinance and that the trees slated for felling do not meet the definition of heritage trees as defined in the ordinance. We're going to include photographs in our PowerPoint presentation showing the measurements of the girth of each tree because the girth determines whether or not the tree is a heritage tree or not. Essentially, a heritage tree is a tree that's 90 inches or more in girth or with multiple trunks, 2 of which collectively measure 72 inches in girth or more. So we'll have photographs to accompany that. Repair of the sidewalks is required pursuant to the sidewalk repair standards adopted by the County Board of Supervisors. The damaged sidewalks are a public hazard, and the county's liability for allowing a public hazard to continue expose the county to significant liability. And this is if a known hazard is not promptly abated. So the sidewalk damage needs to be addressed without delay. My colleague Valerie Lopez will now present a PowerPoint presentation, and I'll be available to answer any questions that you may have after the presentation.
So I just want to mention to the public that's on the call that we're going to hear Chuck and Valerie's presentation. The board is going to discuss it first, and then I'll open it up for public comments. So please wait until I call on you. Thank you.
Thank you, Valerie. You can go ahead.
Okay, I'll start sharing my screen. Can you guys all see it?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So here's location number 1. It's close to Moreto Way and Hawthorne Drive. The work consists of 16 feet of sidewalk replacement. And there you can see the sidewalk lifted where the arrow is pointing. Here you can see a close-up of the sidewalk. As you can see, it's over 1 inch. And here you can see the tree trunk circumference in inches.
81 inches.
That's correct. Location 2 is close to Rockfield and Hawthorne Drive. And this, as you can see, this sidewalk is lifted significantly. And the work consists of 12 feet of sidewalk replacements and 2 tree removals. Here you can see a close-up of the measurements of the tree trunks.
Can I ask a question?
Mm-hmm.
You measure it from your chest level. Is there
Oh, yeah.
a rule on that?
So in order to measure the circumference in inches of the tree trunks, you have to measure at a point 4 1/2 feet between the uphill and downhill side of the root ground. In this case, it was measured from the root up, and it's 4 1/2 feet.
4
And that's
1/2 feet
specified
from
in the ordinance.
Yeah.
4 1/2 feet from the roof. Okay. Fine.
Okay, and this is the second tree. And it's also, it's a little over 2 inches. Now, location number 3, the work will require 20 feet of sidewalk replacements and 1 pine tree.
You have no sugar.
Oh.
Could everybody mute if you're not presenting, please?
I was gonna make lemonade. That's
Nina, could you
Yes,
please
Laura.
mute yourself?
Maybe you can control the mute from her.
Yeah, let me see.
Valerie, you can go ahead and proceed.
Yeah, keep going.
Okay, so this is a close-up of how much the sidewalk is lifted for this third location.
I don't see this.
And it's also more than, it's over 1 inch. And this is the tree girth measurements for the third location. Now on the fourth location, the work will require 20 feet of sidewalk grinding, and there will be no tree removals. And that's it. That's the end of the slideshow.
Chair Nye, I would like to mention just briefly that the trees that are slated for removal are going to be replaced. I'm certainly sensitive to the comments that have been forwarded to my office about saving the trees and the value of the trees and the beauty of the trees. While we cannot replace them with trees of the same type, because those trees are really inappropriate street trees. If you plant another pine tree, you're going to have sidewalk issues in the future. But the county does have a list of approved street trees with non-invasive roots. So we would be happy to provide that to the MAC. We've asked Enhanced Landscaping to provide us with some recommendations for trees that would be appropriate for that particular area. And while we can't totally mitigate the loss of the trees, if the MAC is interested, we can consider planting larger trees than we normally would plant. Ordinarily, we plant 18-gallon trees. We could look at something in the 24-inch box tree range. Again, it's not a replacement of the tree in kind, but I think it's respectful of the concerns that we've heard that, you know, the loss of a large, beautiful, mature tree hurts the community. So considering the planting of a larger tree might help at least mitigate it somewhat, because it'll look much more mature than having a little skinny tree replace those big, beautiful trees. So that would be something that your MAC could consider and that
Thank you.
staff would support.
Chuck, I have a question.
Yes.
I had sent some photographs via Jan of some lifted sidewalks that are in much worse shape than the ones you showed on Hawthorne, on Canaan. They're included in the ones that are under Public Works CSA 4. Do we have a plan for all the sidewalks, you know, rather than do onesie twosie issues? I mean, how did this one come up to the top to be done?
Okay,
versus
the way that we
others?
do this is that Roads and Transportation has a program where they inspect sidewalks periodically. Enhanced Landscape is supposed to be doing the same, although they've had some changes in personnel, and I think that has been lost. We're going to meet with Enhanced to make sure that that program is put back in operation. But the reason these 4 have come up for replacement is because Transportation is planning to do some sidewalk repairs in the same areas. So we piggyback them when we can with other public works projects, sidewalk replacement projects that are happening in the area. If these are really severe, then we're going to do them piecemeal. We'll do them as they come up, because it's a public safety hazard. And once we're aware of a public safety hazard, we have a relatively short period of time to mitigate that hazard. Our liability as a county goes up the longer we delay. So as the community makes us aware of these issues, and there are eyes and ears out there, we will jump on them.
Do we have any board comments or questions?
Yes, so Enhanced Landscape is the one who's identifying these problematic trees. Are they the ones also who's going to cut it?
Not necessarily. In this case, Enhanced Landscape only provided us with an estimate for 2 of the sites.
Okay.
Their contractor who handles sidewalk repairs, something happened to them. I don't know if they survived the pandemic, but they've been very slow in getting us estimates. Roads and Transportation, on the other hand, have gotten back to us quickly. And that's where we got the estimate of, I think it was $14,350 for all 4 sites.
14,000. How about Enhanced Landscape? How much is their estimate?
Their estimate for 2 of the sites was $10,000 or $10,068.
Okay. Now, if we're not gonna cut the trees, how much is the cost?
There's not really an alternative to cutting the trees. An arborist has determined.
Carolyn, you cannot speak during this time, please. Thank you. Go ahead, Chuck.
An arborist has determined that the trees need to be removed. There's certain requirements for replacing the sidewalk, including prepping the site where the sidewalk's going to be put in. So the tree roots would have to be cut. which makes the tree unstable. It could kill the tree. That's why we depend on an arborist. Staff does not make that determination. We bring in an arborist to make that determination.
Oh, and there's an arborist report that you can show us on this?
Roads and Transportation had the estimates prepared. I don't know whether a formal report was prepared or was there an email recommendation, but we can certainly get you whatever they provided.
Okay. Now, Chuck, if they are considered heritage trees, they're not going to be cut, right? And so there is a way for you to save trees because they're quote unquote marked as heritage. And so if that is the case, what is the mitigation for risk on this if they are marked as heritage?
Even heritage trees can be removed.
Oh.
So heritage trees are a designation, but it's not a designation that necessarily protects trees in all cases.
Okay.
County's ordinance provides that if trees are in conflict with a public project, and replacing the sidewalk would be a public project, that a ministerial permit can be issued by the planning department to remove the trees.
I see.
Do we have any other questions or comments for Chuck before we
Yeah,
move to open? Go ahead, Janice.
Yeah, Chuck, there are more ways than protecting trees besides being a heritage tree. And I sent out some documents to the members to look over. And using section 8107, there's two other categories that are used to protect trees. So I really don't want to get hung up on the girth and get into a debate about the girth, because to me, that's just wasting time. But I see this as another way of protecting these trees in another venue. I actually found another public works in San Francisco, which I provided to the members, that call them landmark trees, and how they're approaching the landmark trees. And I'd like to read this to you. Landmark trees are trees that have been designated by the Board of Supervisors as extra special. It may be due to the rareness of the species, their size of age, or extraordinary structure, or ecological contribution. In addition, historical or cultural importance can qualify a tree for landmark status. Property owners, any member of the Board of Supervisors, Planning Commission, the Landmarks Advisory Board, or directors of a city department may nominate trees on public or private land to protect and preserve their value and presence in the community. And this is at San Francisco Landmark Tree Program, which I really enjoyed looking into. And I would like to use this as a template and make this a motion to the MAC to use this as a template to find out further ways we can protect our trees. Our trees are very special. I also provided the MAC members information on carbon. So every time we can't keep cutting down trees and don't look for alternatives to save them, we're actually hurting ourselves. And I'd like to read this to you. How do the size and age of a tree affect how much carbon it stores? This is a study that was made. And the answer, the carbon dioxide absorbed during the method of photosynthesis is stored in the form of carbon within the body of the trees for a longer period. The carbon is stored within the wood of the trees and is employed further in several processes. The stored carbon is accountable for the regulation of greenhouse gases within the atmosphere and the maintenance of the climate. When a tree dies, the stored carbon is released within the atmosphere in the form of gases. The size of the tree determines its age. The more its size, the older it is. As with time, the trees and their woody stem broaden and increase in girth. An older tree is assumed to store a large amount of carbon as it has lived longer and has higher potential and efficiency. A younger tree also stores carbon at a higher pace, but due to enhanced functioning, but the measure of carbon stored within an old tree is more due to greater lifespan.
So if we don't protect our trees and we're worried about a lifting of a sidewalk that we can fix, and I would like to see I'm along with JL. I want to see the arborist report, and I would like to see another arborist to come in and give a report that's neutral from the landscaper. There's no incentive on that GSA contract to have anything different because you get paid more money for cutting down trees than having someone come in and fix the pavement. That's why you haven't got that bid yet. So I would like to see a neutral arborist come in because we need to protect our trees. And then I also provided the MAC members information from the California state, restoring California forest. And it doesn't need to be a big forest, but because of the drought, the fires that these trees have gone through and survived, and they're beautiful. I think we need to protect them. And I think we need another neutral arborist that has the incentive to see what we can do to save these trees versus an arborist that's affiliated with a landscaper that gets money for cutting down trees. So
Thank you, Janice. Seema?
I actually met with the, I guess, Transportation Department, Public Works at these locations with Valerie. And location number 2 with the orange paint on it, that is really, really bad. And it's been there for a while and I'm really concerned about it. And if we keep arguing about it, I'm afraid someone's gonna fall, an elderly person or a kid on a bike. It's lifted, I measured it myself, it's lifted 3 inches. And I know it's been there for a while, but that doesn't mean we should let it be there for longer because we're just waiting for someone to get hurt. I absolutely want to protect our trees. I really appreciate Carolyn and everyone. And I don't want to take down trees. And I know, Janice, you want to say save our trees, but I want to save our people too. I want to save our residents. I want to save a little kid or an elderly person from falling and hurting and breaking a bone because those sidewalks are really lifted, especially location 2 and I think location 3. So
I totally agree with what you're saying.
Wait,
don't cut
Janice,
the tree
let's let Seema finish, please.
Janice, I let you speak. Let me speak. I love my trees too. I like environment. I love them, but I have to balance safety. And I know Carolyn has shown me a lot. I know you can grind some areas, and they're going to grind location number 4. But when I read the ordinances from Chuck, I read the county ordinances. We also have to follow that. And when they're lifted 3 inches, you can't grind them. They're saying it's not possible. Now, Janice, about your point about the same people giving you the estimate and all that, it's not true. I pushed Valerie last year to give us a new estimate, and that's why she went to the Transportation Public Works, because the first estimate was from Enhanced Landscaping and it was 10,000, and I thought that was too high for the 2 locations. And you're right, there might have been a conflict of interest there. But this was from Public Works. I feel that the 14,000 for all 4 locations was much more reasonable. And I don't feel they're doing a conflict of interest there. This is Public Works money. It's not like they're making money on this. So I don't feel that's a valid concern. I think Valerie did a good job on getting us a second estimate. So definitely location 2 to me, there's not much choice there. We looked at those trees. They got to go 12 inches below when they repair these sidewalks. So they have to cut those roots. And one of those trees is leaning significantly already. I'm willing to discuss the other locations, but location 2 to me is a no-brainer. It's just too lifted. Those trees are too causing too much harm. So that's my.
Alon, do you have something you'd like to say?
I just wanted I kind of want to reiterate what Seema said. You know, I do believe, I love trees and I think trees are good for the environment, but at the same time, when I look at those pictures on those sidewalks, I think it's very dangerous. And I agree that something needs to be done, but also I'm not an expert on trees, but when we have an arborist come and tell us that trees need to go, I have to respect their opinion unless you guys want to continue to get more arborist opinions. But the truth is, I mean, I'd love to hear what the public has to say about this to see, you know, if there's smarter people out there that know what other solutions are there that can fix the sidewalk and keep a tree. I can't think of anything. And right now, the way it looks to me, it's got to be either or. So, I mean, I'd love to know. Also, with the same note that what Jane said earlier. I mean, if we're going to fix onesies, twosies, I almost want to just go through all of Oak Park and see how many sidewalks are really bad. And if we can collect 50 of them, maybe the price will be, $1,000 a piece instead of being $4,000 a piece. So, I mean, I'd love to do that more because I really want Oak Park to look great. And I think that we have a lot of bike riders and walkers and we need to keep our area safe. And I think that would be a better solution, in my opinion, if I had to really make a decision here. Is let's solve this problem once and for all permanently with a bunch of locations. But I mean, those are just my comments. But again, I'd like to hear what the public has to say. I think I'm going to
let me just, I haven't been able to speak yet, and I just want to double check with Chuck and JL one more time before we open it up to the public. But I do want to say that I feel very uncomfortable that we're addressing an area that was going to be addressed by transportation. Given that we just went over the budget, I really would like to see an overview of what our liability is in Oak Park. I'd like to map out where the issues are and understand the cost or project the cost for fixing those. I think that would make a huge difference to the MAC. I feel very uncomfortable fixing one area and not understanding the big picture. JL, do you have any other comments?
No, I totally agree with you. Actually, I saw the property that we mentioned as location number 2, and that sidewalk is really high, and it will really cause some issue with somebody safety wise. But I would also like to get that arborist report that they're using to determine that if they just grade this, that the tree will die or the tree will fall. I need to see that report, because if we can not cut the trees and just do the grading, we're not going to spend 14,000. We're going to spend less, right? With the money that we have right now, and we're trying to save money. I think we need to get in, real fast a decision based on facts from the arborist. And then if we can save
Chuck,
these trees, that would be great.
Chuck, what is, I know we have it here as a recommendation from the MAC. What is the timeline and what is the next step?
I cannot promise that the decision will be made to delay the sidewalk repairs, especially for the 2 of the worst sites. Site number 4 is just a grading. I see no reason to delay that. No tree removal is planned. So we're just talking about one site. Basically, Public Works will make the decision on how to proceed based on protecting the county from liability for this hazardous condition to continue. So the MAC is free to make any recommendation that it chooses to, but ultimately Public Works is going to balance the decision based on what's in the public interest.
And when is the decision going to be made?
In the case of the 2 most seriously damaged spots, I would say it'd be made very quickly. Like you said, these areas are known. They've been a problem for a while. We've delayed their replacement because we wanted to get the MAC additional estimates, additional facts. At some point we have to say, we have really all the information that we need to make this decision, and we make it and do the repairs.
Okay, thank you. So I just want to say before I open it up to the public that I did personally receive 10 emails from residents asking to keep the trees and not fell them. So I want to mention that. And then Carolyn, let's kick you off, and I'm going to keep time because I think we're going to try to keep it to 5 minutes. Let me just get my timer going.
Jane, 5 minutes total or per person?
No, 5 minutes per person. I hope we can keep it to less than that.
That's quite a bit by person.
I know.
And
how do we do it? Do we raise our
hands or what?
No, I'm going to call on you. Carolyn is first, and I'm going to, because this is a pretty big issue and these people have hung on for hours. I'd like to give Carolyn a chance to speak. Go ahead, Carolyn.
Yes, hi. I think you all know what my position is on removing any of these trees. I found an Acorn article that talks about these trees for area number 2 from 2017. This problem has been going on for a very long time. Obviously, I don't want the trees removed, and obviously I want the sidewalk repaired. I think you're aware that I live on Smoke Tree Avenue, and a couple of years ago, Public Works came to our street, as well as Bayberry, Pinewood, other streets in our area, and they ground down parts of the sidewalk. My uplift in front of my house was well over 2 inches. It was ground down, as well as pads were replaced by Public Works, and our sidewalk is perfectly smooth and safe. I totally want to see these sidewalks be safe, but I also want to save the trees. And I know that there are alternatives, and no roots were cut on any of the trees in our neighborhood, but simply the sidewalks were elevated, and Public Works did this project. I don't remember the name of the gentleman that supervised the project, but it was done several years ago. So we have a neighborhood where we have saved our trees along the parkway, and in front of my house, for example, one root was cut. My tree is fine. Nothing has fallen down. The ability to grind sidewalks down and make them smooth, I know can be done, because it's seen. I sent you a video, or excuse me, a picture of it a while back from in front of my house. And also, according to the tree protection ordinance, I have measured these trees, and if it's maybe a foot down further towards the base of the tree, they are 90 inches. So this discrimination of them being measured a little bit higher, and they're 87 inches, down closer to the ground, 3 feet from the ground, they are 90 inches around. So I've watched this neighborhood be built. I've lived here for 42 years. Hawthorne wasn't even built, and the homes weren't built when I first moved here. So these are indeed heritage trees, and I am adamantly opposed to removing them. If we plant crepe myrtles or some other tree, they will never achieve the majestic height that these pine trees have. Already we've lost several of these pine trees along that route. And I will also let you know that I'm very fond of the Agura Road drive through Westlake Village, between Lindero Canyon and Lakeview, where there's majestic pine trees in the center, as well as on both sides of the road. These trees obviously have maybe had issues over the time of lifting their sidewalk or the street, and I'm sure that their arborist and their public works department has figured out ways to preserve these trees, and we can consult with them if we reach out to them to see what they have done to maintain the trees instead of removing them, and also keeping the sidewalk safe and the street safe. So there are alternatives, and I just can't tell you how much I wish you would go along with saving the trees and fixing the sidewalks. And if you want to come and look, I asked Valerie to come and look in front of my house. She saw how the sidewalk was ground down, and the adjoining streets, Pinewood, Bayberry, we have similar situations with the sidewalk pads being replaced and also ground down. So anyway, that's my position. And we all know what trees do for our environment with this time of climate change. We know what they do to enhance our neighborhood, and we've lost so many trees with the Woolsey fire. I'm just heartsick that we would lose any more trees. So I encourage you to consider fixing the sidewalks, and I would like to see this other arborist report. I would like to have independent arborist reports. I know there's a man named John Burke. Reached out to him. He's in Thousand Oaks, I believe. He's from Ventura. That handles, he sent me a whole packet of pictures of pine trees along the streets in the communities that he manages. So he's an arborist we could get to consult. So I'm urging you to please consider saving the trees and making the sidewalk safe.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to go on to Nina. Do you want to come off mute, Nina? For the next one to sign in. I'm going to start you right now. Go ahead.
Okay, well, first of all, I'd like to apologize for my mute button not being on at the beginning. I didn't realize that.
No worries.
And the other thing too is there's so many options that you have with keeping trees and fixing sidewalks, like Carolyn and other people have mentioned. You know, if part of a root of a tree gets shaved down or even cut or nicked, it doesn't damage the entire tree. It's like if one of my fingers gets cut off or broken, I don't die. And the trees are the same way. You know, there's a lot of things that can be done, and there's a lot of unbelievable arborists out there that could look at things differently. I mean, some people slant towards, hey, cut it down. It's in the way, cut it down, when there's too many other options. And I drove through Beverly Hills on my way back from an appointment, and I could tell you that some of those trees that are just overgrowing on the roots are overgrowing on the sidewalks, the sidewalks get fixed. The trees don't get torn down. You go to Pasadena, they have gorgeous trees lining their streets. When something happens, the sidewalks get fixed. The trees don't get chopped down. And I think, I don't know if someone's just kind of trigger happy on chopping down a tree because it's maybe the easiest, you know, the most profitable, but that shouldn't be our go-to. Personally, I'm not terribly fond of pine trees. They're not my favorite tree to have because of the needles of fall, but I would never cut one down. I mean, that the benefits of those trees are, it's just too great to just cut it down. And I drove down Hawthorne coming back home today just to kind of relook at the street, and cutting down those 4 trees is going to leave a huge hole in the walkway of lined trees. It's going to make a big difference. Those trees are too big and too grand to just cut them down. I don't live in that area. I live on Smoke Tree like Carolyn does. And I will tell you this, after the fires that we had that ripped through our neighborhood, there's 3 neighbors from across our street that took down their trees because they thought it would be like the best thing for our community, you know, because of the fires. And it kills me when I look across the street because a huge, beautiful part of the street is gone and it can't be replaced. It's not the same. And they just took something away from me. I mean, it's on their property, so it's their right, but it took something scenic away from me. It took something that contributed to the environment and our health. And it's just, I just don't think cutting down trees is the way to go. And I think we should explore other options and other arborists that maybe are more, have more insight on what could be done to save a tree rather than just chop it down. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you. Thank you for coming and presenting. Appreciate it. Jana, you're up. I'm going to start you right now.
All right. Thank you, Jane. You know, I feel like I live in an alternate Oak Park. With all this discussion, I examined the 4 pine trees, the sidewalks, and so on. Let me tell you, where I live in original Oak Park, we have sidewalks that are so much more raised than those. Yes. I mean, I was shocked that the discussion was, oh, we got to chop the trees. And I'm wondering, really, if the unequal application of whatever ordinance we're talking about really opens up the county to more liability. Because if you are talking about cutting down trees where you have a rise of a few inches of a sidewalk, and in other parts of the city, you have a rise of 6 inches or a broken sidewalk, and you don't care about it, and you don't inspect it, it just doesn't make much sense governmentally. So either it seems like you do a total inspection of the community, as other MAC members have said, or not, to pass it over to Enhanced Landscape that does, you know, maintenance along major roads like Canaan or, you know, whatever. isn't right, because where I'm talking about are other streets where there are a lot of pedestrians. But you know what? I value the trees in my neighborhood, and I don't, when I'm going by one of these trees that's raised the sidewalk, I don't say, oh, that should just be chopped down, you know, get that out of here and smooth out the sidewalk. I say, I have to walk carefully because the tree is a value. And I think in Oak Park, we are pro-tree first. We're a very unique community. This, maybe other places wouldn't care, but we do. And I would refer to the large pine tree that was saved on the corner of Pinewood and Conifer. You know, the county made some adjustments and allowed that tree to stay. So I don't think we're ready for a decision. And I'm telling you, there'd be a lot of unhappy people in Oak Park if Public Works just decided to go ahead and chop them anyway, because who cares what people think? I believe the sidewalks don't have to be absolutely flat. You can have, as long as there's not something to trip on, you know, you can raise them up over roots and down, just make it smooth. Which has been done in original Oak Park, as Carolyn has mentioned, on Bayberry and other streets. So either apply this ordinance, if it's an ordinance, equally, or really, really consider what you're doing, because you cannot replace, I mean, fine, you want to do a 28-gallon tree. Well, it's not going to replace the positive effect that a 40-year-old tree has on carbon cleaning up and so on. So I think that we need to look at this more. And I think you're opening up yourself to more lawsuits if you go ahead and fix these minor raises of the sidewalk. So I am asking you, MAC members, please delay this decision or vote to save the trees, because that is the will of Oak Park residents that I know. Thank you.
Thank you, Jana. We've got Jay up next. Thank you, Jay, for waiting. I'm going to start you at 5 minutes right now.
Okay, thank you. You know, if I'm hearing correctly, this has been an issue since maybe 4 years back, and all of a sudden, you know, we got to make a decision because in 2 or 3 days, Public Works wants to move on this thing on a rush basis. I remember when we saved the ash tree in May Boyer Park, there were 3 arborists that delivered reports, and they weren't exactly the same. I mean, one said, can't save it. Two said we can't save it. One said we could save it. We came up with some interesting workarounds and we saved the tree. And they said we couldn't put wood chips in there. We did. And I know, because I'm down the street from Carolyn, that we did save the tree in front of her, and they ground the sidewalk and they level the sidewalk. So I don't know what it costs for an arborist, but I think 3 arborists, you know, let's get 2 out of 3 opinions. And then if 2 out of 3 arborists say there's planing and grinding is not going to save the tree, then I think at some point we got to go with the experts. But 1 arborist, you know, I think that's a little thin on the expertise. So we've saved a lot of trees here in Oak Park. I'm curious what Supervisor Parks thinks about all this. And I'm curious what it costs for an additional arborist or 2. Thank you.
Thank you, Jay. Okay, I don't know that there are there any other residents out there that would like to speak? I think I've scanned the pictures, the videos. I don't see any other names from residents. Is there anyone else there that wants to speak?
There are no raised hands either.
Okay. Supervisor Parks, do you want to speak?
Yeah, I, would like everyone else, we all want to keep the trees if we can keep the trees. And we also have to eliminate the tripping hazard. I think the concept of ramping, I don't know if that has been considered, but there are areas where the Public Works Agency was doing some ramping. So I'd be curious to know about that. I've also asked that they look at this concept of rubber tiles that they are using in Thousand Oaks on sidewalks. So there's actually the ability for the route to remain, and it essentially does a bit of ramping too. But that's to me is the only alternatives I can look at. short of cutting them down. But it's certainly where you have a leaning tree and the roots coming up and moving the sidewalk, I think that would be a lot harder to deal with because they have to, you have the potential of the tree falling on top of the fact that you also have the concern about the, you know, the tripping hazard. So I'm not an expert and I'm not so sure that it falls to let's get another arborist, but rather let's look and see if there's other alternatives short of cutting. Those are my thoughts.
Thank you. Jay, do you have I think my headset's going to die, so I'm going to have to call back in probably. And Alon, you may have to take over from here, but I'll try to find the phone number. Jay, do you have a comment before you?
No, Linda Caput's just walked in the room and she just wanted to speak if she could.
Certainly. Go ahead.
So I just wanted to say that all trees are worth saving. And I just think that we should try to save all trees at any expense. Like we should just do it. They're old and it takes another 50 years to grow a big tree. So don't take them down.
Thank you. Thank you for the input. Chuck, do you want to say anything else before we see if
You're
there's a
on mute,
motion?
Chuck.
Sorry about that. I was muted. I guess to close, what I would have to say is we have a situation here where inappropriate trees were planted near the sidewalks. If this were to happen today in a new subdivision, there's approved trees with less invasive roots that would be considered for placement in a landscape strip near a sidewalk. It's unfortunate that these trees were planted there. It's great that they've been there 40 years or more before they cause problems, but not replacing the tree is going to lead to increased costs in the future because those sidewalks will crack again. You know, I have to go with what the arborist report was. I'm not an expert at trees. That's why we have arborists that we bring in to consult with. I'm viewing this from a county ordinance perspective. There's a county ordinance that deals with sidewalk repair standards. The standards are if it's 0 to a ½ inch of displacement, no repairs are required. If it's 1.5 to 1 inch, they can do ramping on either side or grinding to eliminate the trip hazard. But anything greater than 1 inch, the sidewalk repair standards adopted by the Board of Supervisors say the sidewalk has to be eliminated and replaced.
Yeah.
So
right.
we're, you know, that's basically the facts that I have to deal with. And, you know, Public Works is required to keep the county's liability in mind and to reduce it. And right now we have an arborist saying the trees have to go. The sidewalk, I think we all agree the sidewalks need something done. I think there's a variety of opinions out there about what that is. But I think in the case of at least 2 of them, it's pretty clear the sidewalk has to be removed and replaced.
Right.
So what we're looking for is a recommendation from the MAC on how to proceed. It's just a recommendation.
Carolyn, we're done with the public comments. Thank
But,
you.
you know, obviously, we'll run this up the chain of command here at Public Works to see what the decision ultimately is. But we do appreciate the feedback from the citizens. Like I said, I love trees as much as anybody else. And the decision was not made because we like to remove trees. It really wasn't. It was a public safety consideration. And ultimately, that's what the decision will be made on, whether and what we do with the trees and the sidewalks.
Okay.
So that's all I have to say.
Is there a motion from the?
Not a motion, a question.
Go ahead, Janice. We're
Question.
done with public comments. Carolyn, thank you. You had 5 minutes. Sorry. Go ahead, Janice.
Question to Chuck. Chuck, what's the date on this arborist report?
I don't know. I have not personally seen the arborist report.
So what I'm hearing is that you came to us, presented this to us, that we're supposed to vote on, but we haven't got an arborist report to look at, and we don't even know the date of this report. And I would have appreciated a little bit of time to look over this arborist report to ask questions on that report. So it's kind of unfair to us, Chuck, the way you're processing this, because I should think that you would make sure that we have everything in front of us for us to make a good decision and a good vote. But I'm not seeing anything in front of me.
Okay, Dr. Smits.
Yes.
Really, the only reason this is coming before the MAC is because the cost is in excess of $10,000. If we had just dealt with these individually as individual items, the work would have been done without consultation from the MAC. So it's not the fact that a tree is going to be removed that we brought it to the MAC, or that it's a sidewalk repair that we brought it to the MAC. It's because the expense to be incurred is in excess of $10,000 that we brought it to the MAC.
So it wasn't based on a protective tree?
It is not, none of the trees are protected trees.
Well, because you have said they're not heritage trees, so they're not protected.
It's not me saying this. It's the Public Works Agency saying it after consulting with the County Planning Division.
Okay, so the counting, excuse me just a minute. The County Planning Division is saying these are not protective trees.
Correct.
And you'll give me that information to who's saying this?
Of course I can.
I would appreciate that. That's number one. Number two, that is something, and you brought up a very good point, Chuck. That is something that I would like to see is for us to reduce that milestone of $10,000 back down to $6,000, so that MAC is given more information of what's going on with our trees, and we're knowing sooner at a lower dollar rate. So it was pointed out to me about that, but we'll talk about that later. But that's something emotional.
Yeah.
Janice,
So
that's
is there a
separate.
I'm sorry, I had a recall in. Is there a motion on the floor?
I'm not making a motion to pass this whatsoever because I felt that
Is
this
there a
is not
motion to
done
call?
properly. This
Okay, I
process is
understand that
wrong.
you're asking for
There is no
request.
motion.
Is there a motion on the floor?
No.
There wasn't a
Any
motion yet
board
when you were
member-
going.
Does any board member want to make a motion regarding 11?
Before we do, I'd like to make one more comment before we end discussion on this.
Go
We've been
ahead.
talking about this for a long time. I just kind of want to summarize some of my thoughts here for a second. I agree we want to fix the sidewalk. And I mean, without speaking to an arborist or seeing the report, it's really hard for me to decide if the trees really have to go. I almost think that we could repair the sidewalk, shave down, I go with what the residents say, we can shave down the roots. And then if the tree dies in 10 years from now, then we'll deal with removing it maybe. But besides that, I'm kind of worried about the liability issue that Chuck presents. I think I kind of wonder, when is the last time that the county was actually sued because somebody tripped over a sidewalk? And how realistic is this liability? Because if I would like to assume that if that actually happened and somebody did trip and sue the county, I'll bet you that the next day, all the sidewalks in Oak Park would have been fixed in a day to avoid any more lawsuits. So I doubt there's actually have been any lawsuits. And I think we should just fix all the sidewalks, period, not just a specific one. And I'm happy that this came before the MAC because it's over $10,000, because I realized, I read what the email said, that because Enhanced Landscape was $68 over $10,000, this actually came to us, which is funny because had they quoted 9999, the two trees would have been gone and the sidewalk would have been repaired. So public works may do whatever they want to do, and we may like it or we may not. We can recommend against it if we don't like it. But I think the issue is that we should just get the sidewalk repaired all around Oak Park for the liability, for the long-term liability of that they're worried about. And as far as the trees, that should be a separate issue to take them down. And I think more arborists, and I'd like to also see an arborist report. That's all my comments.
Chuck?
Thank you. I just want to make clear that anytime a tree is removed in Oak Park, regardless of what the cost is, we notify Supervisor Park's office. We do that routinely. We are very transparent in what we do, and we don't try to do anything behind anybody's back. So the fact that it was $10,000 or below $10,000, if a tree is removed, we let Supervisor Park's staff know immediately. And we don't do anything until the MAC members have been notified. So I just want to make that clear.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chuck.
I also, if I might, just that there is the liability issue of a trip and fall, and I'm sure we've been sued in the county's history, and boy, some other counties like Los Angeles have just racked up lots of money. But there's that issue, but there's also what I was saying too is the potential if you shave the roots, the tree could fall. And that's like a separate liability issue. And that's why the one that is leaning, and you cut the roots of the one that's leaning, that one has probably a higher risk than one that's not leaning that you cut the roots.
Can I get a motion from one of the board members?
My motion is not to cut the trees, but continue with the repair.
Do I have a second?
I second it.
Denise, can we do a roll call?
Jane Nye,
Yes.
Alon Glickstein,
Yes.
Seema Chandra,
No, that's not possible.
JL Diaz,
Yes.
Janice Smets,
Yes.
4-1.
Okay. Now, Janice, did you have other items that you had requested? Chuck, are you taking action on those that she requested, like, and I think Alon wanted copies of the documents from the arborist, et cetera. Do you have that? Do you need that from us, or do you have that written down?
I have some of them, but just to be safe, if people want to email them to me, I'll
That would be
try to
great.
get those handled.
And then
Okay,
also,
I'm gonna-
just for protocol purposes, when you submit information as a MAC member that we distribute to the MAC, that's a good way of doing it, because then you're not directly communicating with other MAC members. However, that information needs to be made available to the public. And so it's a little bit difficult on Zoom, you know, how do you do that? But we do need to have that information available to the public. And so that is something we're going to have to figure out how we can do that. I guess it's possible you could put each page of every document you sent up on the screen, might be one way of doing it, but that's something we have to work on, how to address that in a Zoom environment. If we're in person, we could just have them available and copies available for the public, but wanting to alert you that we have to make sure that we're staying compliant with the Brown Act.
Are you referring to what Janice had sent out? I mean,
Yes.
I do have it. I can share it on the screen, but I will tell you with the other Macs that I run, I have the MAC members submit them to me before I post the agenda. So it's not like the day of the meeting.
Could be included.
To be
could be
included
included.
with the agenda. So I'm not,
That's
you're
great.
not sending me something the day of the meeting. You're sending it to me before the agenda is posted.
Well, let's talk with County Council about that, because I think about the Board of Supervisors meeting, and they actually want us to distribute them at the meeting.
Well,
That might be because it's not in the packet. So let's just, we'll clear that
Okay.
up. I want to bring that to your
Thank you.
attention.
So we're gonna go on to 11C, protocols for use of social media.
Just want to, I'd like to say something, one more for Chuck, if you don't mind.
Sure.
Certainly.
I just want to say that with everything that we said, I mean, it's all about trying to protect Oak Park and all the trees there, but if like, you know, like Jen said, if there's the one, or Seema said, the one tree that's leaning over, and Linda also mentioned that there's one tree that's leaning over, and the sidewalk was really, really bad. If Public Works deems that all by itself as a job that needs to be handled, and it's under $10,000, I imagine you guys would probably just handle that without any hesitation. Is that correct?
Well, the vote from the MAC tonight was that we protect the trees.
Okay.
So I can't really condition it based on the information that you just provided now. That wasn't part of the decision.
Right.
And my thought was, if you're cutting the roots, it could destabilize it more. That's the question. And I'm sure the Public Works Department is going to be, if they're concerned with that, we'll be addressing it. You know, either bringing it back or whatever, but you don't want to be in a situation where you're making an unstable tree by cutting the roots.
Right. So in that case, if they go to protect us, to fix the sidewalk, and they think that's going to happen, they're just going to pause the job and reconsider the.
Yeah, and I don't know. That's why I brought up the potential of ramping
Right.
that was mentioned.
Yeah, no, it's multiple issues. That's the problem. It's too hard to deal with
Okay.
with so many trees. But thank you.
Let me make a last comment on that, Alon, because I was there with Public Works.
Yeah.
And they pointed out that leaning tree in particular, and it's leaning and it's gonna fall into the neighbor's, the homeowner's yard. And they said that one is really dangerous. And that's the one where that sidewalk is lifted 3 inches. And they said that root's cut, that tree's gonna become pretty unstable, and you have further liability because it may fall and break into the backyard and the fence right there.
So do you
Okay,
believe?
we're gonna move.
Okay.
We're going to move
We've
on
talked
to
about this a lot.
11C. We're going to move on to 11C, protocols for the use of
I
social
think-
media for Oak Park.
I think Janice has been trying to politely raise her hand on this too. I don't want to overlook her.
Supervisor Parks, this is going to get in that area of me reaching out to another agency, which I think I need to coordinate with you to let you know why I'm needing that information from Chuck and what I want to do in that communication. So I'll be contacting you later about this. Is that okay?
I just want to make sure that you are representing the MAC in anything that you do. So
Yes, ma'am. I'll be representing the MAC when I.
Members want to make sure that that is the case too.
Yeah, I'll be.
All right, we're going to
representing
move on to 11C, protocols for use of social media for Oak Park MAC. Janice, you're the social media person. Are you following any protocols? Do you want to write up protocols, or what's our recommendation on the protocol?
I did not know where that came from there, Jane. You know, I thought, oh, that's an interesting thing to put on the agenda. What's that all about? The protocols is, first of all, I need a definition of what media is. Are we talking about writing to Acorn? Are we talking about getting interviewed by a reporter? Are we talking about next door? What are we talking about for media? So I'm really kind of confused on that part completely. And also JL is with me. We're doing this together, right, JL? We're in this.
Yeah.
together.
So in the last MAC meeting, right, we established a committee called Public Relations.
Right.
And
Correct.
And that doesn't have any precedence in my mind as far as like what are the mechanism for public relations is concerned. So at this point, we need to create something, I would think. Like, for example, we need to create a Facebook group, for example, a Twitter account, for example. And then after we create those official channels, then we come up with the some protocols on how we will publish something official. Okay.
I think
Now,
that sounds
if one
good.
of right now, if one of us would like to comment on Nextdoor or whatever on their own personal account, I think that should be considered not official coming from Mac. You know, that should be like the policy, because if somebody asks you and it's not coming from one of our official channels, or we didn't vote on it, that should not be considered official Mac position.
So could you and Janice get together and create a protocol or a policy to present to the MAC at the next meeting?
Yes, we'll do that.
I think it would be good for us to review it. I have one that's like a one-page document that's really quite good. I'll forward it to Venice and let her manage it to the rest of the group, and then maybe you and Janice could look at that.
Okay, that will be
As
our
a
action
template.
item. Yep.
Janice, do you have anything else you want to say about this item?
No, I think that we've already covered, Supervisor Parks and I have already covered a portion of it when I was going to another board, and she gave me good guidance on how to do a disclaimer that I wasn't a MAC, wasn't representing MAC. So whenever we go to another agency, this is why if I'm going to represent as MAC, I will always have Supervisor Parks on board. When I'm going non-MAC council member, I will be always putting a disclaimer in that document. So that's already been kind of discussed and taken care of. So I'm not sure how much more we're going to add to this, JL, but I'm open for suggestions.
So let me take the lead. Let's meet after this and we present the a policy document for MAC to consider. Okay.
Any other comments? I'm going to move on to 11D. I'd like us to consider the dollar amount of CSA for the work proposals. We currently have it at $10,000. It had previously been $6,000. Is there any discussion or change to our current recommendation?
I would like to make a motion, if I could, to reduce that to $6,000 so that we have more visibility of anything that's going on with our landscaping and MAC is involved.
We didn't have a discussion yet before you.
Okay, then I won't make a motion, but that's my suggestion.
You can have discussion after a motion also,
After the motion.
before a vote, that's
Yeah.
fine too. Doesn't-
I would like to keep it at $10,000. A lot of little repairs, landscape keeps going on, and every time we have to make a vote on it, it delays a lot of these things that could be done. So I feel 10,000 is appropriate.
Okay.
Any other discussion?
So
Yeah.
this cost is against that 250,000 that is for emergency, right? That's what we're talking about. Is that correct?
The budget, yes.
Yeah, in the budget, right? We described
Yeah.
earlier that there's like 250,000 for emergency, et cetera, et cetera. Okay.
That's good point, JL, because that can eat up your budget if we're not watching it closer. You're right.
Yeah, and that's where I'm going with this because of our shortfall.
Yep.
Issue with the budget. I think we should go
tighter.
with the 6,000.
Go tighter. Go tighter.
There was no second on that motion, by the way.
JL.
I know.
Oh no, we're just
we went
discussing.
into
We're
the
just discussing.
discussion.
We're not yet
Yeah,
in the
we went
motion.
into discussion.
No, but I'm not doing the roll call. I'm
Yeah.
just saying there's
So,
a second.
your motion on the table?
Okay, yes, my motion's on the table that we reduce it to $6,000 so that MAC will be reviewing the expenditures at $6,000.
Is there a second for that?
I have a comment also though before that.
Go
don't
ahead,
mind.
Alon.
I just want to say that, I've been on the MAC for a very long time and we've been dealing with many different things throughout the years. And the reality is that the way we meet once a month or sometimes once every 2 or 3 months. And the way that, things cost these days. And the fact that it takes us 2 hours to deal with a $14,000 expense and a $10,000 and $5,000 and crossing guards. I think that we raised the $10,000 for a reason because we need to get things done. And unless we let the county the ability and the tools to fix things, we're never going to get anything done. And 6,000 is really nothing these days. You can't fix anything, on $6,000. So I'd like to keep it at $10,000, and I think it's not a lot of money. And I think we have a budget, and I think we still get notified of these expenses. So we do have plenty of time to discuss them. And I just feel that $10,000 is really the minimum we should have it at, if not more.
Okay, so we have a motion on the table to lower it to 6,000. Did we have a second on that?
I second that.
JL seconds it.
Mhm.
Denise, do you want to do a roll call for that, please?
J9,
No.
Alon Glickstein,
No.
Seema Chandra. Seema
You're
Chandra,
muted.
No.
JL Diaz,
Yes.
Janice Smets,
Yes.
3-2. It was not approved.
Okay, we're completed 11D, so we're going to go back up to public comments. Denise, are there any other public comments outside of the topics that were discussed?
There was, hold on, let me get up the chat.
Oh, Dina Perry. Yeah, I saw Dina Perry had do you want to read that?
Sure, she had to go early, but she said she can't stay. She wanted to make a public comment. I wanted to bring up that numerous people are letting their dogs run off leash at May Boyer Park. Yesterday, there was someone there with 2 pit bulls running around. Some sort of reminder would be nice to the public or a sign posted that they shouldn't do this. Maybe the park ranger can keep an eye out for this problem also.
So Janice, are you the May Boyer person or not anymore? I'm not sure what this year. You're on mute. Janice, you're on mute.
So sorry.
Thank you. No problem.
I go over there periodically. I'm not saying the dogs are talking to. I mean, you have to be there when it happens, and I'm not going to spend 24/7 over there to try and catch these dogs. But it is a concern. And what they can always do is, and I don't understand why they're not, is just taking pictures. I mean, everybody carries their cell phone with them. Take pictures of the owner, take pictures of the dog. You know, see, even if you say, well, where's the leash? And if they refuse, you take pictures of the owner, because that is evidence that they're not doing right. And you can turn that in to our sheriff with no problem. So I'm not
But
sure.
it's not
how
a, it's not an RSRPD. Is it a park district, park ranger issue, or is it animal control?
It's probably the park ranger, but he can't be everywhere either. We have more than one park going for us, so he would still need the pictures and some more information about what's gone on. And they can't expect the MAC members to be hanging around the parks all the time to try and catch these people. That's not.
And it's really, to me, if we got this at our office from Dina, we would send it over to the Rancho Simi Rec and Park District, and they can increase patrols there. But you know, this to me is not a MAC item so much as it is a Rancho Simi Rec and Park District item.
Right. So as a representative to the Rancho, what I'll do is bring this up to them and tell them if we could put some signs maybe to address this. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, JL. Okay, Venice, any other public comments that you think we should bring up?
I don't see any hands raised.
Okay, we're going to go on to item 9, which is council comments. And I'll start with Alon.
I have no comments.
Seema.
I have no comments. I just want to say I look forward to meeting Oak Park MAC in person as soon as we can.
Same here.
JL, comment?
Yes, I have some updates for you guys. So RSRPD, they have a lot of activities over the last, I would say, 2 months that we did not meet. There's a group of there's a group that would like to organize a nonprofit for the protection of the open spaces, and I think that's a good idea. There's a lot of involvement from the community to protect these open spaces that RSRPD is responsible for, and they're also open to support that. So that's one thing that I think is good. It's a good vibes from the community. The RSRPD is also, I mean, the Oak Park Committee is also opening up a position for students to be part of the committee. And so, just like us, right? Which begs the question, where is our student representative? How come they're not attending this meeting? Anyway, so that's the same concept wherein we'll get some young people involved in the decision making process. So that I think will be instituted in the next election, because that's they're thinking that would be at least an elected post or an assigned position. So implementing rules are not yet out for that. A third, there's a lot of repairs that have been done by RSRPD in our trail. So which is welcomed by everybody in the committee, which is good. Okay.
Thank you, JL. Janice?
The only thing I have to report is that, remember the company that was putting out rodenticide in Oak Park? And my niece announced it to me, and then I got the information to the sheriff, and the sheriff passed it over to an investigator. And I think I got a copy of their response, and I gave it to Jan, and I think she dispersed it. Did everybody get a copy? Yeah. So it's a good thing. They're actually finding this company. They were actually putting out that second generation rat poison out there after it was outlawed. So he actually didn't just get a warning, they actually did find him. So I was really happy to see that we're starting to enforce it.
So I highly recommend that any of our walkers and the trails, if they see it, report it, because we're going to enforce it.
Thank you, Jana. So I have a couple of things. I'm sorry to keep everybody so late, but I have a whole list. And Venice, shall I email you my notes so you don't have to worry about taking all these notes? I'll send you my list of notes. So whatever's easiest for you. But I just want to mention the Verizon cell phone
Benicia
tower.
on
I
mute.
see. Yes, that's fine. I also go through
Okay.
back through the video, so but
Okay.
yes, that would be helpful. Thank you.
Okay, so Verizon cell tower that was supposed to be on Churchwood project, I did want to mention that it was, in February, it was withdrawn, formally withdrawn. So the appeal and application for the project will not be moving forward at this time. I want to give an update on the trash audit. 2 new trash cans have been added. So if you can remember, we had a 10-year-old boy, 10-year-old student that came to our MAC meeting to talk about trash on Canaan Road. As a follow-up, I did an audit and picked up trash for a month on Canaan Road. And as a result of that, we have 2 new trash cans that have been added to Canaan Road. In addition, the Oak Park Unified School District has an environmental education and awareness committee and a club that has now launched an Adopt a Road program. These were all opportunities that were given to us by Ventura County. Everything went really smoothly, and the first 15 people, students, high school students, went out and collected trash. They each collected about 25 pounds of trash on their first cleanup day on May 1st. They're going to go out there every month and do this. I think it's extraordinary. And I walk my dog every day on Canaan Road, and I've noticed a huge reduction in the amount of trash. My neighbors, actually, after they heard about what's been going on, carry a bag with them and pick up trash as well. So we're seeing a big community involvement in this trash improvement project. Next, my responsibility as Oak Park Unified School District liaison. I did want to mention that we did do a Spirit Award for Ragini Agarwal. She's the administrative assistant to Supervisor Tony Knight and also the communications coordinator for the school district. I delivered a certificate and an orchid to her yesterday to thank her for all the work that she's done in partnership with us in the MAC. In addition, Jan provided certificates. Supervisor Parks mentioned the retirees event that happened at the school district on May 11th. She spoke about Tony Knight. But in addition to that, we recognized over 13 teachers and staff that are retiring. And so that was presented as well. Also, I wanted to...
Jane, is Ragini retiring or she's staying on?
No, this was just a Community Spirit Award. She's not retiring.
Oh.
It was just a thank you for partnership that she has with the MAC. She's really helped us a lot in communication.
Okay, just checking. Great. I'm glad she's staying.
Yeah, she's not retiring. I did want to mention that Oak Park Unified School District is having a new superintendent that starts on July 1st. His name is Dr. Jeff Davis. He was the previous assistant superintendent at Ventura Unified School District, and I think he was written up in the Acorn. Sounds like a really great person, and Dr. Knight's very happy with the decision on that. Oak Park Unified School District will have in-class classes for all grades starting August 9th when the next year starts. And the good news is that all the culmination plans are going to be in person. They're going to be limited how many guests are allowed. And also I wanted to mention that for Oak Park High School, unfortunately, the football field, even though they've spent over $1 million on the upgrades, they found some leaking field groundwater. They've had to stop the work and they're going to have to go out for a bid again. And because of that, the culmination for the high school is going to happen on the baseball field and not the football field. So there's a lot going on at the schools. Also, there's a report talking about what's listed out on the website, in Oak Park Unified School District website. There's a report on diversity and equity task force, a final report. There's an annual report and then a final report from Dr. Terry Walker. I think they're both really great reports and worth reviewing. And then I just want to mention on Triumphal Water and Sanitation District and the JPA, which is the Joint Powers Authority with Las Virgenes Water District. They've put on the water, Taste the Water, Explore the Garden events in May. They've done 3 events, and they're going to continue this as we move into the yellow tier. You can't go through the facility yet, but you can taste the water and go through a virtual event and look at the garden. Also, fire season has arrived. We've also had 2 local fires on April 29th in Calabasas and Westlake Village. And then there was one that was close by the Palisades fire on May 17th. So the fire department response was fantastic, and they've used our reservoirs, but I want to make sure that we're all really aware of that. Compost is available through Las Virgenes, and we're just going to see what Governor Newsom does with mandating drought controls. Right now, Southern California is not in the drought, but we'll have to keep an eye on it. That's it for me. Anything else from anyone else? Supervisor Parks, before we close out the meeting?
No, I just, I'm always impressed with how MAC meetings, you know, how you guys arrive at your decisions, and really appreciate the good discussion that you had this evening and the decisions that you made. Well done.
Thank you, Supervisor Parks. Appreciate your guidance. I'm going to adjourn the meeting at 8:22. Thank you so much, Denise. Appreciate it. And is Jan still on the phone? No, she's canceled out. So we'll have to send her note. Oh, hi, Jan. Oh, there you are. There you are. We're going to miss you a lot. Thank you so much for everything you've done.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, meeting's adjourned. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Be safe, everybody. Be safe. Bye-bye.
Come on.